All right, everybody, time for your favorite segment, my favorite segment, everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. We found out a while ago that Sam, my nephew, is really good at gun trivia. So now if you write in and you send us a question for Sam, and again, the first time he hears it is on the air, if you stump him, you're going to get a cool special prize. But even if you don't stump him, if we just use your question, you get a hat or a shirt and our, of course, thanks. This is brought to you by Seal One, seal1.com. Quick tip to save you money and headaches and time when you're cleaning your guns at the bench. Just use Seal One. You can ditch all the three-step systems and just switch over to Seal One. You rub it on, you rub it off, and boom, your gun is clean and lubricated. It's that easy. One and done with Seal One. Check them out. Go to seal1.com to buy their product, or go to your favorite gun store and say, hey, how come you're not carrying Seal One if they're not carrying Seal One? So, Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you guys?
We're good. I think we're good. You ready for the question?
Sure, let's have it.
All right. So Sam Clapton from San Marcos asks, what very famous German pistol was driven out of their manufacturer's factory by the Soviet Union? And then there's a bonus question too. Where was that firearm made instead of Germany?
Sam Clapton from San Marcos. What very famous German pistol was driven out from their factory by the Soviet Union? Ooh,
Yes.
That's a tough one. Clearly, this would have been. Is he saying pistol manufacturer, or was it just one individual pistol?
It's a specific pistol from a manufacturer.
Yeah, the manufacturer was manufacturing a specific pistol
In Germany.
in Germany, and then the Soviets.
The Soviets told him to knock it off.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that pistol was
yeah,
still
that's a
made.
tricky
It was
one.
just made somewhere else.
So clearly this would have to have been in 1945 or shortly thereafter when the Allies were occupying Germany and the country was partitioned. Now, part of me wants to, no, I don't think that's the case. I will go with the safe bet, and I'll say I'm thinking
bet?
There's more than one
I know.
bet.
Yeah, well, it's the hamster wheel's spinning. I'm gonna say, yeah. Well, first of all, this is a really tough question. Sam Clapton from San Marcos, great job on this. You might get me, but I want to say that probably Walther had a factory that was in East Germany, and they were ordered to stop producing either the P38 or the PP, but Walther had production in West Germany, as evidenced by the fact that production of those pistols and of the P1 continued after the war. But that, I don't know, part of me thinks that isn't it. It might have been just like, Erfurt was making Lugers and the Soviets told them to knock it off, because I know Erfurt was in East Germany, but I don't know if they were making Lugers that late. I know they made them during World War I, but I don't know if they made them during World War II. So I'm going to go with the first one. I'll say maybe Walther had a factory in what would become East Germany. That's probably not it, but I'll go with it.
That was it.
Although he's got the model wrong.
Yeah,
but
Yes.
the
Yeah,
manufacturer is correct.
Yes.
What model did you say?
I said either the P38 or the PP.
So close.
So close. So even though PPK pistols all have the Walther name on them, most were actually not made by Walther. Walther initially produced PPK pistols at their factory in Zella Mehlis from 1931 to 1945. When this factory was overrun by the advancing Soviet army, Walther moved to a new factory in Ulm, West Germany, where they have remained since. However,
Yeah, they're still in Ulm.
However, under West German law at the time, German arms companies had to outsource the manufacturing of components for their firearms. So Walther outsourced PPK production to Mandarin from 1953 to the mid 1980s. These guns have the Walther name on them and are often marked as made in W, West Germany, but were actually French made and assembled in West Germany. In 1978, the first American-made PPKs were produced by Ranger Manufacturing in Alabama and were distributed by Interarms. Smith and Wesson then took over production for Walther from 2002 until the mid-2010s.
Yeah, I don't know how familiar I am with a gun manufactured by the French. I'm glad they moved to Alabama. I'm a lot more comfortable with some Alabamians making my guns than I am the French. Always an opportunity to pick on the French.
I'll take half right. Better than nothing. Interesting fact about the fun fact about the PPK, at least in the U.S., or I think it's a fun fact. For a long time, if you went to your local gun store, which, well, I don't know if I can say this authoritatively because I don't know if the PPKS was ever on the roster, but at least in free states, when we go to a gun store, we see Walther PPKSs for sale, marked PPK/S. And people sometimes wonder, well, what's the S stand for? And why is it different from just a PPK? And a lot of people only know the PPK because of James Bond, which I won't get into that right now. But there are some weird rules about importing firearms in the United States. There are a lot of weird rules about importing firearms into the United States. And there is specifically an import ban on some types of pistols that was passed in the 60s, intended to combat the deluge of so-called Saturday night specials that were coming into the United States, and unintentionally covered the Walther PPK. Because there's a points system. See, it can't be simple because it's the government. So there's a whole point system. There's a worksheet you can find online where it's like, if it's this caliber, it's this many points. If it's this other caliber, it's worth this many points. Whether it's hammer fired or striker fired, I think is worth a certain number of points. But the PPK was too small. So what Walther did is they made it a little bit longer and called it the PPKS. And that was perfectly fine to import in the United States. Now, they can make PPKs domestically, which I think they're doing now. They're not illegal. They were just illegal to import because for some reason, whoever made the rules thinks that a gun is evil because of where it's made, despite being the exact same darn thing. I don't get it, but that's why the PPKS exists. It's to get around dumb import laws.
Isn't the caliber different as well?
PPKs were originally offered in 32 ACP or 380. I believe all of the PPKSs are in 380, but I'm not sure. I believe they are. All the ones I have seen are, and that would also make sense for importation because 32 ACP isn't worth as many points.
What does the S stand for?
I don't know.
Stuff.
Oh, I stumped you. Dang, that'll be next week's question, so I can stump you.
I have to admit, I remember the point. I had to have been in my 20s, my late 20s. I remember discovering or learning that PPKs or Walthers were German. I always thought they were British because of James Bond.
Interesting.
I remember going,
You're probably not
that.
alone in that.
Yeah, I'll bet you I'm not alone in that. I'm not embarrassed.
Well, okay, now I have to go on the James Bond rant. The original reason why he had a PPK back in the day was that at the time, that would have been one of the most practical choices for a European gentleman assassin. He needed something compact first and foremost, and there weren't very many options in that market, but he needed something that was in a commonly available chambering. And so your options for small pistols in a commonly using ammunition that was really easy to find throughout Europe, in those days, it was basically, a PPK in 32 or not a whole lot of other options. He originally had a Beretta, but in one of I think the first James Bond movie, I think M tells him to get rid of it and orders him to use a PPK instead. in a really odd scene that compares 32 ACP to a brick through a plate glass window, which is kind of wacky because it was considered not very powerful even at the time. But it was a purely practical choice, giving James Bond a PPK in 32. But it evolved over time and became so closely associated with the character that now it's the complete opposite. It's a total style over substance thing. A practical gentleman assassin in Europe would be using something in 9mm, first of all, because the ammunition is easy to find. And second, he would be using something that's actually concealable by modern standards. Now, the PPK is small, sure, but it's kind of heavy for its size. It's a solid steel gun. And there are so many great choices in polymer framed striker fired handguns with better capacity in a more powerful chambering that is easier to find ammo for. But everyone knows James Bond as a guy with PPK, so
That's right.
he still has his PPK. I think Pierce Brosnan used a P99 for a while, but that was before my time, and I'm not a huge James Bond aficionado to begin with, so I might be wrong.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Although, he did I know he switched from, his watch originally was a Rolex Submariner, and he switched it to an Omega in the 90s or 2000s. So he's not, he's not above switching it up. Okay.
I'm a Casio man myself.
Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media. And check out our website at gunownersradio.com.